Relax. It's just coffee with a friend. That text came in at 8:41 a.m. By 9:03, I had sent screenshots of her location history to his wife. Not out of revenge. Not yet. At that point, I just wanted confirmation that I wasn't losing my mind. That the pit in my stomach had a reason to exist. That the matching bracelets I found in her gym bag weren't a gift from Cressida. Because, surprise, Cressida hates jewelry. I didn't even say anything when she left the house. She had her reusable coffee cup, like that made it all innocent. Her favorite oversized scarf. Phone clutched too tight. She avoided eye contact on the way out like I was the TSA, and she had something in her bag. I followed her with my eyes through the blinds. I never do that. I'm not that guy. But this morning, I watched her until she turned the corner. And then I opened the browser tab I swore I'd never touch again. The one with her Google location timeline. She told me she disabled it. She lied. She'd been to that same cafe 4 times this week. Always between 8 and 10 a.m. Always after changing into that black hoodie she claims is just comfortable. Always on the mornings I was home late from the night shift, too tired to pay attention. So I texted her. Who's the friend? No reply. Then I asked his wife. Her name's Callie. I found her through a tagged post, a couple's hiking photo from September. He had his arm around both her and my wife. I sent her a simple message. Hey, I think we're both being lied to. She replied instantly. Within 10 minutes, she had sent me a photo I hadn't seen. One I'll never unsee. My wife. Her husband. Holding hands under the cafe table. My wife's wedding ring off. His car keys in her lap. Still no reply from Leona. So I sent my message. Then asked his wife what she thought. And suddenly, I wasn't invisible anymore. My phone started blowing up. 3 missed calls. A string of texts. All of them deflecting, spinning, accusing me of stalking, spying, violating trust. Trust. That word. She used that word. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a weak moment or a one-time lapse. This was an operation. A routine. Something that required timing, planning, deception, coordination. The part that kills me? They laughed at me. She actually sent a text that said, "You're being dramatic again. Chill." Callie didn't chill. She went nuclear. And me? I kept the furnace running, made a fresh pot of coffee, and waited. Because when she came home, I wasn't going to yell. I was going to let her lie to my face, one more time. And then I'd show her what I knew. She walked in holding a croissant, like she hadn't just detonated a live grenade and left it ticking on our marriage. Her coat was unzipped. She was humming. And when she saw me sitting in the kitchen, same hoodie, same sweatpants, same dumb stunned expression I always wear when she lies, she smiled like nothing happened. "Hey babe," she said. "Sorry I didn't text more." I didn't move, didn't blink, just looked at her phone in her hand and wondered if it had already been wiped. "Coffee with a friend, huh?" I asked. She paused. Not a big dramatic pause, just half a second. Just long enough for me to catch it. "Yeah," she said. Reaching for the cupboard like this was still normal. With Trina. She's going through that mess with her ex again. It was last minute. She opened the cabinet and took down her favorite mug. The one we got in Vancouver. The one with the cracked handle she refuses to throw out. I remember thinking how ironic it was, that she'd drink from something broken and still pretend it worked. "Trina," I repeated. "You sure?" She nodded too quickly. "Yeah, why?" I didn't answer. I just pulled my phone from my hoodie pocket, turned it toward her, and hit play. Audio. Low quality, but clear enough. 2 voices. One male, one hers. Laughing, whispering. The word hotel slipping between the jokes like poison in tea. Her hand froze mid-stir. And for the first time in months, she didn't have words. I asked his wife, I said, "Callie." She answered faster than you ever do. Still no response. Her eyes bounced between me and the phone like she was calculating damage. Measuring how much she could still salvage from this wreck. "You went through my stuff?" she finally snapped. It was so perfect, so rehearsed, that it almost made me laugh. The audacity, the desperation, the performance. That she could be caught cheating and still try to flip the script like I was the villain. "I didn't touch your phone," I said. "I didn't have to. Your patterns are louder than your voice." She looked like she wanted to cry, or scream, or both. Instead, she said nothing. Just stood there, holding that stupid cracked mug, staring down at the floor. I should have screamed. I should have kicked something, or broken down, or thrown the mug against the wall. But I didn't. I just asked one question. How long? No answer. I asked again. How long has it been, Simon? Her face cracked. Just a flicker. A twitch of guilt so sharp and fast that it barely existed. But it was there. That was all I needed. I'm not mad, I lied. I'm just done letting you lie to someone who loved you more than you ever deserved. Still she stood there. Frozen. Croissant untouched. Coffee cold. Marriage dead. And I think in that moment, she realized. I wasn't the same man who begged for answers anymore. I had them. And soon, so would everyone else. I didn't tell her to leave. That would have made things too easy for her. No drama. No guilt. No mirrors. I wanted her to stay. To sleep in the same bed. To feel every breath I took beside her as a reminder that I knew. That I wasn't the fool anymore. So I didn't scream. I didn't beg. I just started locking the office door. That's where the printer was. Where the files were. Where my laptop used to sit. The one she borrowed 3 weeks ago to fill out tax stuff and conveniently forgot to return. When I asked for it back, she got cagey. Now I knew why. She noticed the locked door on Monday night. What's this? She asked, shaking the knob like it offended her. You locking doors now? I told her calmly. Work stuff. You wouldn't be interested. And for once, I wasn't lying. What she didn't know was that inside that room, I was building something. Not rage. Not revenge porn. Nothing illegal or dramatic. Just precision. I'd been collecting receipts, cross-referencing timestamps, downloading photos, exporting metadata, recording how many times Simon's car showed up 3 blocks from our house. Every time she said she was out with Trina, I checked the footage from a neighbor's ring cam. Not creepy. Just facts. I also called Callie again. Not for updates. She had already sent enough to fill a binder. No. This time I asked her what she wanted to do. I expected anger. Maybe even denial. But she just sighed. I want people to know who he really is, she said. Not just me. Everyone. And that's when it hit me. I didn't have to scream to be heard. I started writing an email. A very carefully worded one. To the gym where Simon works. To his manager. To their insurance provider. To the brand that had just featured him in their latest Instagram campaign. I didn't accuse. I simply described. Attached timestamps, images, and one particularly tone-deaf audio clip where Simon jokes about training married women harder than single ones. I wasn't canceling him. I was showing the math. Letting people come to their own conclusions. I also found something else. In one of the photos Leona had sent Simon, a mirror selfie, clearly taken in our guest room, I noticed something in the background. Something I hadn't paid attention to before. My briefcase. Open. With one of my pay stubs half pulled out. And that made me pause. Why would she need that? Why would he? And then I remembered something she said 2 months ago during a petty fight over groceries. You should really stop direct depositing everything into the joint account. It's not smart. At the time I brushed it off. But now it felt deliberate. Coordinated. I checked the account history that night. Not the usual stuff. I went deeper into the linked devices, the logins, the failed password resets. And there it was. 2 login attempts from an unknown IP in the last month. One successful. One failed. I changed every password I had. Froze my credit. Locked the safe. Pulled half my savings into a separate account with a new bank. The next morning, I made pancakes like nothing happened. She kissed me on the cheek, still in that same hoodie she thinks hides things. She had no idea I'd already started the quiet process of erasing her access to me. One account, one firewall, one locked drawer at a time. She thought I was sulking. She had no idea I was preparing the stage. It came through my inbox at 2:13 in the morning. Subject line. We should talk like men. No greeting. No introduction. Just a message from someone calling himself S. Marwell. I stared at it for a full minute before opening it. My palms instantly damp, my stomach churning like I'd swallowed battery acid. He didn't deny anything. Not once. He called it a situation. Like my wife was a traffic jam or a backed-up sink. He said he never meant for it to go this far, and that if I kept dragging other people into this, then we'd both get hurt in ways that go beyond marriage. That last part? That's the one I read 3 times. I didn't reply. Not yet. I needed to think. But thinking was the problem. My head was too loud. Every version of the story kept crashing into the next. Was this a threat? Was he trying to scare me into silence? Or was he bluffing, trying to measure if I was serious? I forwarded the email to Callie. She called me 20 minutes later. She didn't sound shocked. She said this wasn't the first time he'd used that exact phrase, heard in ways that go beyond marriage. She said he once told her ex-boyfriend something similar back in 2018 when they had a messy breakup. And that guy's car got mysteriously keyed the next day. But this wasn't about a car. This was about someone who had been inside my house, my marriage, my routine, who had probably laughed at me while sipping espresso from my own cups. Callie said something I couldn't shake. He doesn't just cheat. He collects trophies. He makes wives fall, and then he studies how far they'll go to protect him. He turns people into stories. I thought I was being strategic, controlled, smart. But now I was starting to wonder if I'd wandered into something deeper than an affair, something designed. Because Leona wasn't the first, and I was probably not the last. The next morning, I watched her brush her teeth like nothing happened. She tied her hair into a bun, smiled in the mirror, kissed me goodbye. She asked if I needed anything from the store later, like that email from her lover didn't exist. Like the world I was falling apart and wasn't hers too. After she left, I stared at my reflection for a long time. I didn't look angry. I looked scared. And maybe that was the most humiliating part. That I was afraid of a man who sold fitness packages and wore compression shirts with slogans like, "Earn your oxygen." But I was. I printed the email. Every line. Highlighted the parts that hinted at more than just guilt. I slid it into a red folder and tucked it behind my tax documents. Just in case. Then I bought a burner phone. I texted Simon from it, anonymously. All I said was, "You're not the only one who documents everything. I have more than you think." He didn't reply, but I saw him that evening, driving past my block. He didn't stop. He didn't even slow down. But his car crawled just long enough for me to recognize him behind the wheel, sunglasses on, smirk barely visible from the streetlight glare. That's when I understood this wasn't going to end with a confession, or a clean apology, or even a separation. This was a game, and he thought I didn't know the rules. He was wrong. It was Wednesday night when she brought home takeout. Thai food. My favorite. She even remembered the extra peanut sauce, a detail she usually forgot. She placed it gently on the counter like some kind of peace offering, humming while she unpacked the bags. She made 2 plates, poured wine into the nice glasses we got from her aunt's wedding, and sat across from me at the table like we were just another cozy couple with nothing to hide. I didn't say a word. She talked. About traffic. About a podcast. About how the neighbor's cat had wandered into our yard again. It was all noise. A desperate, exhausting performance. But she played it well, smiling in the right places, laughing at her own jokes, asking if I liked the food, even though she already knew I couldn't taste a damn thing. When she finally looked at me and said, "You've been so quiet lately," I just nodded. I told her I was tired. I told her I'd had a long week. And then I asked if she remembered the storage unit we used to rent before we moved here. She blinked. "The one in Hillside?" "Yeah, that one." She squinted like she was searching for some answer in my tone. "What about it? You said you cleared it out last year, right?" "Yeah. I mean, mostly." "Why?" I shrugged. "Just curious. I drove past it the other day. Didn't realize we still had it." She stopped chewing. It was the first crack in her mask. I hadn't driven past it. I'd been inside it. I found the key in her old purse last Sunday. I don't even know why I looked. Maybe because I'd started trusting my instincts again. The purse was tucked behind old boxes in the closet, wrapped in a sweater she never wore anymore. I was looking for nothing in particular, and I found everything. The unit wasn't empty. Inside, there were 2 plastic containers. One was filled with old clothes, books, photos, normal things. The second? A black duffel bag. Inside it were folders, contracts, papers with Simon's name on them, a prepaid phone, notes in her handwriting, and a red journal with a leather strap. I didn't open the journal at first. I just stared at it like it might scream. But later that night, I did. I read every page, and I learned that my wife hadn't just fallen into something. She'd been building it. Page after page of financial planning, timeline entries, emotional rants, coded initials. It read like a strategy. She wasn't just cheating on me. She was studying me, predicting my reactions, writing about how easily I forgave, how I couldn't sleep alone, how passive I was, her word, not mine. She called Simon her mirror. She said they operated on a different wavelength than people like Marlon. She described me as comfortably forgettable. I wasn't even angry when I closed the journal. I was just hollow. like I'd finally reached the bottom of a fall that had lasted years. And now, she was sitting across from me, eating pad thai, pretending to love me while I pretended not to know. I looked her straight in the eye. "You said you cleared it out." She smiled, a nervous twitch in the corner of her mouth. "I did," she said too quickly. "I think you forgot a few things," I said, and took another bite. And for the first time in a long time, she didn't ask what I meant. Because she already knew. She didn't ask which part one found. That told me everything. She just kept pretending the conversation hadn't happened. 24 hours passed with fake smiles, forced affection, awkward hovering. She made dinner twice. Both nights, she wore the same perfume I told her I liked a year ago, the one she stopped using after Simon entered the picture. It was like watching someone rehearse sincerity after forgetting their lines. But I didn't push. I wanted her to live inside that tension, to feel it knot around her every time she turned a corner and saw me already there, waiting. Not angry, not accusing, just aware. That Friday, I laid the journal on the kitchen table before I left for work. Not the whole thing, just one page. A specific one. March 3rd, the night she told me she was working late at the office because of inventory audits. That same night, according to her own handwriting, she was in a hotel in Fairburn with Simon, who brought her wine and reassurance and held her like she was a universe he wanted to memorize. Her words, not mine. I didn't highlight anything, didn't circle the date. I just left it there, folded open, next to the coffee pot, with a note that said, "I understand now." I didn't go to work that day. I waited in the car. At 8:14 a.m., she came into the kitchen. I saw her through the window. She didn't scream. She didn't crumple the page. She read it, slowly. Then she sat down and stared at it for a long time, rubbing her temple like the words were giving her a migraine. Then she did the thing I didn't expect. She took out her phone, not to call me, to call him. I couldn't hear her, but I didn't need to. I saw her mouth the words, "He knows." And then something that looked like, "What now?" She paced the kitchen. She cried, but quietly. Wiped her face before she even let a tear fall properly. She looked like a person trying to hold a crumbling wall together with just her fingers. That night, she didn't come home. She texted me around midnight. "I need time to think. I'm sorry." I didn't reply. I just took the rest of the journal and made a digital copy of every page. I uploaded it to a private cloud folder. I printed a second copy and mailed it to a P.O. box I opened under a fake name. Not because I wanted revenge, not exactly, but because I didn't trust myself to make clear decisions while my heart still flinched every time I thought about how she used to touch me and call me her safe place. The next morning, there was a knock at the door. I assumed it was her, but it wasn't. It was Callie. She looked tired, angry, and scared. She said, "He knows you reached out. He's not going to let this go." I asked what she meant. She handed me a manila envelope. Inside were 3 photos. Of Simon, of Leona, and of someone I didn't recognize. A man in his 20s, bruised, sitting on a curb, holding a towel to his face. "This is what happened last time," Callie whispered. "They pushed someone too far, and Simon made sure he couldn't talk." I asked her who the man was. She looked me dead in the eyes. Her ex. That was the moment my spine turned to ice. Because Leona never told me she had an ex. At least, not one who mattered. Callie said his name was Evan. She said it quietly, like even saying it out loud might summon something dark. I just stared at the photo again. The swollen face, the broken expression, the sidewalk smeared with something that didn't look like just blood. I asked how long ago it was. She said 2 years. Right before Leona met me. That didn't make sense. Leona told me she'd been single for a while when we met. Said she needed space from her last disappointment. That was the word she used, disappointment. She made it sound like he ghosted her. Like it was a forgettable, flaky thing. But the guy in the photo didn't look forgettable. He looked wrecked. I asked Callie what happened. She hesitated. Then she said, "He tried to walk away. That was the problem. He found out she was seeing someone else, and when he confronted her about it, she cried to Simon. Said she was scared Evan might hurt her. So Simon made sure Evan got to be the one who looked dangerous." I felt the bottom drop out of me. It wasn't just an affair anymore. It was a pattern. I remembered something from last summer. Leona had gone quiet for a week. Said she was in her own head, blamed it on work stress. But she started waking up at night, panicked, talking in her sleep. One night she whispered the name, Evan, but when I asked her about it the next morning, She brushed it off, said I misheard her. She said, "That's no one. Maybe you were dreaming." But now I knew the truth. I wasn't dreaming. She was. I asked Callie why she was telling me this now. She said, "Because Simon doesn't get scared. He gets proactive. And if you don't understand what he's capable of, you'll end up like Evan, dragged through the mud and made to look like a villain while they walk away clean." I didn't know what to say. Part of me still wanted to believe that Leona was just caught up in something, that she was manipulated. But the journal told a different story. She wasn't innocent. She was complicit. She was strategic. And now, she was silent. She hadn't texted me since the night she disappeared. So I started calling hospitals, hotels. I even drove to her sister's place, but no one had seen her. For 2 days, she vanished. On the third day, a letter arrived. Not an email, not a message, a real letter. No return address. Just my name, handwritten in her neat, deliberate script. Inside were 2 things. A folded note that said, "Please don't hate me. I never meant for it to end like this." And a photograph, one I hadn't seen before. Leona, in a hotel room, sitting on the edge of a bed with her head in her hands. And behind her, in the mirror, Simon, shirtless, grinning, holding her phone like he was the one taking the photo. I flipped the photo over. On the back, in Simon's handwriting, it read, "She was always going to choose me. You just didn't know it yet." I held that photo for a long time. Not because I couldn't believe it. I could. I believed everything now. The lies, the silence, the way she made herself small and sympathetic while playing a game I never knew I was in. What kept me frozen was the arrogance in his handwriting. The final stab, "You just didn't know it yet." Like I was the idiot in the story. Like he had already won. But that's the thing about people like Simon. They underestimate quiet men. They mistake stillness for weakness, planning for passivity, forgiveness for stupidity. And that's what gave me the edge. I didn't reply to Leona's letter. I didn't text her. I let her believe I was broken. I let Simon think his silence was power. Meanwhile, the journal was already with my attorney. Every screenshot, timestamp, and location ping was in a file, clean, chronological, and backed by copies in 4 separate locations. Not because I wanted to destroy her. I just didn't want her to twist the story when it unraveled. Then I did one last thing. I wrote a letter, not to her, not to him, to Callie. I thanked her for being honest. I told her I knew it probably cost her something to speak up. I told her I hoped she got out too. She replied 3 days later with 2 words, "I did," followed by a photo of a moving truck and an empty ring box. Then I walked into the bank, shut down the joint account, and signed the lease on a new apartment. Smaller, quieter, but with sunlight that hit the floor every morning like a clean slate. I bought a new set of dishes. I threw out the wine glasses. I got a bed big enough for one, and a desk facing the window. And for the first time in over a year, I slept all the way through the night. A week later, I got a text from Leona. Just a single line. "Do you still love me?" I stared at it, and I realized something I never thought I'd feel. Nothing. No anger. No ache. Just a calm clarity. So I replied, "I used to, but I love the peace more." She didn't answer, and that was the last time I heard from her. Simon tried to reach out once, from a different number. I blocked it without reading, because by then, I finally understood the best revenge wasn't a loud ending. It was no access, no space in my head, no more oxygen for either of them. Life didn't get louder after that. It got quiet, clean, honest, and honestly, that's the happiest I've ever been.